Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode.
Nishmat three special ladies, Mini Miriam bat Simcha, Chana bat Simcha, and Chaya Shendel bat Moshe Leib. Also, we want to have in mind Refuah Shlema for Tinok ben Miriam, as well as a Leda Kala for Adam Ohayon's wife, and David Lugas' wife, B'Shara Tova. You have the name, Rabbi David? You have the name? Esther Aliza bat Chana, and Tova Leah bat Miriam. B'Shara Tova Mutzlacha Bezrat Hashem. So first of all, I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight, Kol HaKavod. And if I were to just basically give a title to what marriage is all about, I would personally, that's the way I feel like it, I would call this a humbling experience. Do we all agree with that? So what do I mean by humbling? So I would like to refer to a very interesting Rashi, when Rashi says about the creation of Chava. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to create a partner for Adam HaRishon? So Rashi says, the Pasuk says, Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. And Rashi says, because you know what's going to happen? If man would be single, would be able to live as a single, then people would tend to think that there's another authority on earth. There's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu in heaven, who is single by himself. You can also have men, and one would feel like he's overpowered, he's a supernatural Superman. So that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the wife. How does that answer? The simple meaning is, of course, that a person has to feel that he needs his wife, that he's not perfect without getting married, without living through marriage, like we're going to discuss tonight. What's the goal in getting married? What's the mission that is awaiting us? What is expected out of us? What should the result of marriage be? So we're going to see that marriage could lead to shlemut, to perfection. And I feel that if someone comes to realization that he actually needs his wife to have a balance in life, then there's more room for respect, for a healthy relationship, because you feel like you're not on your own. You're not able to be on your own, actually. That's perhaps what Rashi has in mind when Rashi says that that's the purpose of creation of the wife, of the woman, so she could be as a wife. Now, before we even get into Shalom Bayit, we have to know that there is no such a thing as perfection in Shalom Bayit by any couple. Like, nobody can claim that he has 100% perfect, harmonious relationship with his wife. It's not realistic, right? We have to be aware that nevertheless, we still have to aim for that as much as we can. Like every good trait in life, every good midah, every good behavior Torah expects out of us, to work on them, to be able to achieve and to grow through our experiences in life. One of the main points of the shiur is to show how the Torah is here for us to live better. There's so much material available in the Torah from different places about how one can enhance his relationship and build a true, reliable, and permanent relationship and bond with his wife, and as such, build a harmonious family. Because if there's a good Shalom Bayit, the kids grow very well, balanced. And if there's no Shalom Bayit, a lot of times the first targets, the first korbanot are the children themselves. So it's so important that one comes to realize that there's a mission here. There's a purpose in getting married, and there's a lot that is expected out of us, which is why we are here today, to give it some thought and see what we could learn from it. So, luckily enough, in English, you have a different term for the ceremony and for the relationship. Ceremony is what we refer to by the term wedding. I don't think I'm teaching anything new here. Whereas the relationship, we call this marriage. See, in French, it's all the same, marriage for both, so it's hard to relate. But here in English, So a wedding, what is a wedding? Some people spend a lot of money on that, a lot of effort and time, but we have to realize that after all, the wedding is only a formality. In other words, it is a starting point. But here, from there, should all the work begin. And to be able to build a marriage in a good way, you have to know that marriage is not just two people living together. It's much more than that. Marriage should be a growth process through life in order to build the Jewish couple, a family, with, what would you call, harmony, serenity. These are terms you don't find in the secular world, in the movies and all that. But in the Torah, you will find this as a purpose. A person should aim, should strive to be able to instill in his own home the shalom bayit, the harmony, the feeling of serenity, of happiness. People should be able to walk into your house and right away feel that this is a very, very warm place. It's a place where there's just respect and love. You feel it in the air sometimes. That's what you should aim to be creating. Now, how does one get to that? This is very, very beautiful. But how are we able to bring this kind of special values into our midst? The answer is very simple. One word, all you need is work. That's all, right? That's work. So, who likes to work? We all like to go on vacations. Who likes to work? So we have to realize it's true. Everything in life is like that. The Chachamim teach us that a lot of times we have to make choices in life, and there are always two paths in front of you. One is very attractive, very appealing to you, and probably easier for you to go through. And the other one takes more effort. Usually the one that the Torah would go for is the one that takes more effort, but which at the end you'll feel more rewarded and get better results. The world that would just go after the more appealing way, which at the beginning might sound like more attractive, but eventually in the long run will bring more issues and problems in life. So to be willing to work is what makes us stronger. There's a Hidah that says that the purpose of Galut is to come out stronger. Because with all the difficulties that the Jewish nation has been going through for the last 2,000 years in exile, we still came out, Baruch Hashem, with beautiful Jewish communities, with a lot of Torah, with a lot of chesed. I could make a whole shiur just on showing the beauty of Klal Yisrael when it comes to chesed activities. Just to see the brightness and how genius people are to find ways of helping, of how to help others. There are people, sometimes they have a baby, and they can't afford cleaning lady. There's a whole organization just for that. They provide a cleaning lady for free for that family. A different gemach would provide for a car for those who don't own one, but just for medical purposes. And you name it. There's all type of different gemach. You could have people who make a simcha event, and they have lots of leftover. There's an organization, they come down to the halls, they have already some arrangements, they pack everything up that's leftover and clean, and they bring it to a certain kitchen, and then they sort it out and bring it to families in need. It's endless, the amount of brightness, what a Jew could come up with just to do chesed. So, that's the chidah, that's what we need to be in galut, to find it difficult to live a strong and healthy life with Torah values, and even though it's hard, but we'll be growing stronger by standing strong and accepting, embracing the challenge and going through it. Have you ever wondered why Israelis, anybody's Israeli here? Oh, you have. Israelis, and I'm saying it in a nice way, are tough people and strong people. It's only a few months ago somebody came up with the idea and found this genius. Anybody can think of a reason? What makes the Israeli people, the Israeli population, like so strong, so tough? In a nice way, I'm saying it in a nice way. What is it?
They're surrounded by friction all around.
Oh, very good. Because they have to, basically, in order to survive, they have to fight constantly to keep themselves alive, to promote security and safety around. And because their lifestyle is not so easy, that makes them stronger. And when you're tough, you could use that, like any midah in a person's, any character trait could be used for better things or for worse things. If you're tough, you could use that to be ambitious, to learn how to pursue a career till the end. And we know that Israeli people are strong. And perhaps that's because of this concept. When you work, you come out stronger, like the Chida tells us. And if we talk about work, that goes along with the importance of developing savlanut, patience. Because without patience, a person could be expecting instant results, and if they don't show up, they don't happen, you're going to feel disappointed and you will just quit. Doesn't pay for me to work. Right? Today, we spoke last time, we live in a society where everything comes instantly. Right? The news, everything. So it gets into our mindset. And we shouldn't use that for these kind of things because we have to be ready to be patient. I even mentioned that when you're looking for a prospective shidduch, right, someone to eventually get engaged to, I hope it's no one's case over here. So one of the things you should make sure to have is that the other side is also as willing as you are to work on the marriage and to get advice and guidance and therapy if need be. If anything doesn't go easy, like it's expected to be, that it shouldn't be that one side is willing to work and the other side is giving up. As soon as something doesn't go his way or her way, it's all over. A lot of divorces happen because you only have one side who's willing to invest and put effort into the marriage, and the other side is, that's it, it's all over. So patience is an important asset that we should have in order to get and bring the positive results into our marriages. Now, marriage is also called a life commitment, or at least we hope so. Now, it's interesting because in the business world, no one would ever sign a lease for 30 years or a business deal, these kind of things. Even if you're working with your best friend, would you? No. Why not? If you trust somebody, if you have a good friend, well, why can't you? A lifetime lease. We're set to work for life. People don't do that. Yet, when you get married, we hope that it's going to be a lifetime experience. How does it work? What's the difference? A person is willing to go into marriage. It's probably such a greatest adventures for him to go into through his life, because you're putting in everything, you're investing your emotions, your money, your time, sometimes you have to change jobs and change location. You're willing to do everything just to get married to that person. And it's a lifetime commitment. What gives you the power and the courage to go through that? The answer is one word: trust. You have to be able to trust your partner to the fullest extent possible. Not only that, you have to be able to build in the other the confidence in you. That's probably even harder. You have to prove yourself to be a trustworthy person in all areas. You know, there are some spouses where as soon as one of the partner comes home late, 5 minutes late, where have you been? What did you do? Who did you meet? Suspicion. It's almost an illness. But that's not what marriage should be all about. You have to be able to trust your wife, and your wife has to be able to feel confident with you to the fullest extent. And that's what gives you the power and the courage to go into a lifetime commitment, such as what marriage is or what marriage should be. Another aspect of marriage, of course, we know that marriage is a journey. It's not just, like we said, the wedding is a very nice time. But after that, starts all the work. So the journey. One of the main tasks of any Jewish spouse should be to provide each other with their needs. It could be emotional needs, it could be intimate needs, it could be physical needs, it could be financial needs. But what's the hard sometimes is to understand what the other person really needs or really enjoys. That itself is a skill by itself. It could take years, talking about my own experience, years to even just be able to realize, oh, this is what she likes really. This is what she needs really. I'll give you an example to see how that could come in a down-to-earth situation. You know that through marriage, one could come to unlock the spouse's potential. At least it should be that way. For example, I'll give you an example. Imagine you marry someone who is so much more outgoing than yourself. Am I talking business here with anyone? So, it could be. Is there anything wrong with that? No. So, but what's going to be, eventually, this woman decides to do, she enjoys socializing. So after, you go together to a wedding, you're ready to go, she's not even started her conversation, and like sitting there and waiting. It happens, right? I think we all understand. It could happen. So there's two approaches to that. One could be, okay, straight. Talk to her. Listen, I'm waiting half an hour, and you're still there talking as if nothing happened. Like, what do you think I am? That's one approach. The other approach is, I admire you. I know you're different than me, but I think it's great. That's the way you're going to thrive. Let it be it. I'll support you. Or let's say the wife is so outgoing that she likes to help others, to the extent that it disturbs the husband. So again, it's always good to look for a balance, obviously, right? But if you understand that this is what that person's chiyut is all about. Chiyut means life, or even better than that, livelihood. To feel happy with life, to feel balanced. That person needs this kind of interacting with the world outside, and you're going to prevent this from your spouse, then you're going to make her miserable, and then in the end, you yourself will become that way. So that's what it means to unlock other people, your spouse's potential. Realize what talents she has. Sometimes they could be hidden. You have to dig to find them. But allow your spouse to thrive, because, in very few words, a happy life, a happy wife is a happy life. Some people use it, I don't know, I'm not sure about the other way. This way for sure works. Happy wife, happy life. If you make and happy wife doesn't necessarily mean that you have to buy her the latest model of the Tesla or whatever it is. No, that's not what it means. Make her happy. That means, of course, compliment her, whatever necessary. We spoke about that last time. But also make her feel that she could, just do what is good for her to do, and you're supporting her in that. It's a tremendous opportunity for us to create a strong bond with our spouses, and at the same time to provide for her needs, for what is important to her, and eventually building up a well-being, a common well-being for the relationship. A little talk about appreciation. We have a famous pasuk that says, "Ko tomar levet Yaakov v'taged livnei Israel." Akadosh Baruch Hu goes to Moshe Rabbeinu before giving the Torah to Am Israel, and he says, you should first approach Bet Yaakov, the woman, and tell them about the Torah. Maybe they want it. And then you go Bet Livnei Israel, you go to the men, and you ask them later on what they think about it. So the obvious question is, who should you really approach first? It would make sense to approach men first. Although in the secular world today, they say, women first, let them go in first. But here the Torah seems to support that approach over here. Now we're dealing with Torah. Torah study was given to men mainly. So why does the Torah first gives priority to the women and then to the men? Rav Yaakov Hillel gives a beautiful, beautiful, powerful explanation where he says that the Torah is looking for the support and encouragement of the woman before the men's. Because Kadosh Baruch Hu understands, and we know that a woman is so much more influential in the home than a man is. She has much more influence. And this is one of the qualities that women have. Of course, a woman could use that in a very negative way, right? To provocate to seduce a man. But that's not what we're talking about. A Jewish lady has this power of having a strong impact on the husband. And the Torah says you first have to approach the woman. Because if the wife is okay with the husband going to a shiur like tonight, and she's encouraging him, and she's convincing him that she'll take care of the kids and the family while he's away, then the husband has the ability to concentrate, to focus on Torah, and to devote himself to Torah study. But if he doesn't get the encouragement of the wife, there's nothing to talk about. So we have to show appreciation to our wives for what they do to us. More so, we find that women don't have all the mitzvot like men do. That's one of the reasons why in the morning we say Shelo Asani Isha, because we have more mitzvot than women. As we know, all the positive commandments which are Zeman Gerama, bound to time dependent, women are exempt from. So that's why women don't have to take the lulav, to eat in a sukkah, to hear the shofar. They're exempt. Why is that so? The Chachamim explain, because imagine your wife had a time-related mitzvah that she had to attend to because there's a deadline. And we know what deadlines are. When there's a deadline, you got to make sure it's done. So imagine at this moment the husband needs her help, her assistance. Like the Torah says, a woman is like ezer kenegdo, is supposed to be a help for the husband. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm not going to put that burden on the woman, because then they won't be able to attend to the needs of the husband. Shtabach Shemo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu thought of everything. That even that ability that women have to serve the husband, to attend to the needs of the husband, to serve as an ezer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'll make it easier for her, so she can provide for you. So how much appreciation we have to show our wives for what they represent for us. Now, we spoke about the importance to work on one's personal refinement. As we know, in the books and essays of Musar, of ethics, Chazal constantly remind us that the mission of every Jew is to refine his midot, his conduct. Matter of fact, there's a pasuk that says that a person is born pere Adam, like a wild creature. That's why children, when they grow up, a lot of times they don't know how to say thank you. They don't know how to clean up around them. They eat, they make a mess. And slowly but surely, parents have to raise them and train them and educate them to be disciplined, right? So working on ourselves is the mission. Like the Gaon Mivina says, this is the purpose of creation, that man should be able to break his bad habits, to break them. It's not easy, but that's the purpose of being a Jew. So a person may come home tonight and say to his wife, look, the rabbi said you have to change your behavior. You got to improve this and that. And you start writing a whole list of, that you probably prepared already, about all the things you expect her to change. So is it like a good way to understand the class and come home and do what the rabbi said? Is it the right approach? If that's what the Torah says, that that's the mission of a man, so go to your wife and give her a shiur, hadracha, guidance. Give her instruction how to run her life properly.
It's a good way to sleep.
It makes sense, no?
It's a good way to call David to get a new house.
Right. So obviously, this is the wrong approach. Don't ever try or even expect your wife to change. And I'll tell you why. Because the Baalei Musar expound on the fact that to change a midah, to change a character trait in yourself, can take a lifetime experience, and even that may not be sufficient. So it's not an easy thing to change your midot. We all understand that if we're honest about ourselves. So instead of trying to, and that's another aspect of musar, to blame the other, to accuse the other, to put down the other, maybe you should change. Wait a minute, what about yourself? Musar is always look at yourself. If something or anything goes wrong in your life, don't blame anyone for it. Perhaps you have something to fix. I heard a beautiful insight from Rabbi Rafael Abu Hatzera, Shalita, about chinuch, raising our children. He said, instead of you going over to your child, if you find that he's not conducting his life properly, he's not disciplined properly, and telling what to do, take this midah, try to apply it to yourself, try to perfect that behavior within yourself to the highest level, then you could eventually have an influence on your child, because then you become a model. Same thing with ben adam ben ish ba'al ishto, husband and wives. Don't blame on the other. Don't try to have the other to change. Try to work on yourself. And eventually, if your wife sees that you're perfecting your midot, you're refining, maybe she'll change herself on her own. Don't go over to her and tell her. It doesn't work usually. I think we all tried that, and it doesn't work very well. Okay, so let's talk now. Is there any questions? I see everybody just absorbs everything. Baruch Hashem, the Shalom Bayit is going to go flourishing. Bezrat Hashem, all of you, Mirza Hashem. But if there's any questions, I'm also learning. I'm going through the process myself, so any insight you could share with us, beautiful, will be appreciated. If there's no questions, we're going to talk about a different subject. That's a topic that we brought up a little bit last time, the subject of pleasure. Thinking of marriage, a lot of people associate that with pleasure. What is pleasure? How could one intensify his level of pleasure? And is actually something that the Torah promotes at all or not? Or is it something negative? So we know that in the world around there are certain school of thoughts under the influence of certain religions that believe that pleasure is something negative. But we understand that Torah is against this approach. Pleasure is not negative. Why do you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this natural drive for men to be attracted by a woman and vice versa? If it's not a positive thing, and we all have to go through it to fulfill the mitzvah of lo tov heyot adam levado, and to fulfill Pirya Verivya, it must be that there's something positive to it. So don't get me wrong, to overindulge in the pursuit of pleasure is definitely not what the Torah wants of us. Also, to make pleasure a goal in itself is not right. It is rather, who could give me a nice word? If not a goal, then what else do you think it is? Or it should be? A tool. Chazaku baruch. A tool, a means. A means to what? For what? What purpose? Who needs pleasure? Why do we need pleasure? It's a tool for us to elevate ourselves and build up our relationship. I mentioned last time, but some of you were not here, so I want to say it again. There's a powerful Rashi that says that in order to cleave to one another in marriage, v'davak beishto, it has to be that both men and women enjoy the time and experience of intimacy. As clear as it is. That's clear. Rashi says clearly, v'davak beishto, if the man is the only one who is enjoying himself when he's fulfilling the mitzvah of ona with his wife, and the wife is not enjoying herself, there is no v'davak beishto, meaning not even her, she's not clinging to him, but it seems like v'davak beishto, even on the part of the husband, he doesn't feel attached to her if he cannot provide for her emotional and physical needs as a married woman. That brings us to the very, very big concept, the mitzvah of ona, that a man has a mitzvah to provide for his wife's needs of intimacy min ha-Torah. It's a mitzvah min ha-Torah. And we'll talk more about it a little later. So if the purpose of using this powerful tool of getting and providing pleasure from one another and to one another is as a means, is used to help yourself build up your relationship and enhance your bond with your wife and make it a permanent connection, then pleasure becomes a mitzvah. It becomes a tool that you could use to elevate yourself, just as much as eating on Shabbat, Oneg Shabbat, is also a tool for you to uplift yourself and your mind and your spirits on Shabbat. The same idea when it comes to marriage. And thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for making it bara sason vesimcha, ahava ve'achva. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for creating that concept of the love that it could be between a man and his wife. Now there's a very important message about the intensity of pleasure. How could one, and that's something that I would say the world is going crazy for, how could one enhance or improve or uplift the level of pleasure that you could be getting through marriage? Anyone has ideas? I would say it's a normal thing to expect in life. You want to everything in life, your business career, everything you like to improve. You don't want to stay on the same level. Your Torah observance has to improve, has to get better and better from day to day. So here a person feels like my relationship with my wife is great, but I would like to improve it a little bit, including the amount of pleasure I could get through her. How could you do that? So Rav Dessler says a big answer, a big concept. He develops this concept that pleasure is not just a sensation. The world believes pleasure is the sensation you're getting from whatever is given, source you're dealing with. Says the rabbi, the intensity of pleasure depends on the amount of the effort that you're putting in order to achieve that pleasure, that good time. I'll give you an example. Take children. Imagine a child in a wealthy family begs his mother for a new toy, a new car, a new whatever. Okay, stop crying, I'll buy it for you. The next day is an electric device, I'll get it for you. After 2-3 days, he's all excited about it. It's like a new car for an adult. After 2-3 days, he probably doesn't even look at it anymore. And then you have those low-income families with a lot of children, and they live a Torah lifestyle. The child wants to earn a prize. So mother says, no problem. You want to earn a prize? You got to brush your teeth every single night. We're going to have a chart. You put a check. At the end of the week, if you fill in the whole roll, you get one sticker. And after 6 weeks, I'll take you to the dollar store. I'll buy you something at the dollar store. Lucky it's a dollar store. In Israel, they have a shekel store. So imagine the quality. Usually I tell my kids, dollar store, you're not even out of the store, it's already gone. So there's no point. What do you want me to buy it for? And you can return, obviously. So anyways, you have to earn. How do you think he's gonna enjoy it? He worked so hard for 6 weeks, brushing his teeth every single night. Psh, how happy he feels. Can't imagine. The same thing if you have a fancy car that you just had to sign. I got to sign a check. Now we don't use checks anymore. Swipe or even tap your plastic card or even your phone, better, right? And it wasn't a big deal for you to pay for it. Okay, it's nice. But you have someone who puts money aside for years and years until he could buy a used old car, and he's not even using it every day, just for the weekends. He washes it the whole week and he makes it look shine and everything. And then on the weekend, he takes the bicycle. On the weekend, he has the pleasure to drive his car, his old car. Imagine the simcha, the happiness he's going to feel like. The one that buys a fancy car, he looks at the one who has a better car than him. There's always one better, right? Even if you get the last model, the next day there's already a new model that come up. So he's never happy. What's the message here? You want the true pleasure. You want to intensify the level of pleasure, of enjoyment. You got to put the effort for it. Effort to get it, then you get to enjoy the pleasure. And that's the concept of Ma'im Gnuvim Yimtaku, which I mentioned briefly last time. Shlomo HaMelech says, Ma'im Gnuvim, stolen water is sweet. Which means, when something becomes prohibited, it is sweeter for the person. It's more sweet, the person likes it, enjoys it more. So that brings us to the concept of Taharat HaMishpacha, where we know that there's a time for separation in a Jewish couple. Not like some people think the Torah doesn't want you to be too much with your wives, it's not good, the communication has to be reduced to some degree. It's just the opposite. The Torah wants you to enjoy the relationship even more so. And that's why the Torah gives those restrictions, that there are times when you have to be separated only physically. Communication has to continue, if not intensify. But the purpose is to give yourself the challenge of tasting something prohibited. When the wife is a nidah, you can't have any physical contact. Then she goes to become tahor again after she goes through the whole process of purification. And again, you get to enjoy the taste of the prohibited and also a time that you've been waiting for. And that's what makes it so much more powerful. There is a Tosfot that explains this concept of Ma'im Gnuvim. At the very end of the Masechet Nedarim, there's a case over there of a man who is on his way to his house, and while his wife was waiting for him at home, he sees a man running out of his house. So, what's happening next? What do you think?
The Gemara says that nothing happened.
Oh, so that's the question. Do we know what the man may have done with the wife or not? Because we know there's a halacha. If a woman, God forbid, a married woman goes willingly with another man, she has to get divorced. That's the concept of sota. We know that. So this husband is innocently walking towards his house, but he sees a man running out of the house where his wife was staying, and he's like suspicious. Like, what do I have to think that may have happened? So the Gemara says there's two approaches. There's one way to say, so the story goes on that the man that was running out of the house happens to see the husband coming, and the husband was about to basically kill himself because there was a snake there, was about to step on it, he didn't see it. So the man who was running out of the house is like yelling to the husband, watch yourself, there's a snake there. So basically he's saving his life. So the Gemara says, if he saved the husband's life, it must be that he didn't do any sin with this woman, because if he did, would have been so happy for the husband to die, so he can marry this woman. Does it make sense? It's almost like a movie story, right? Like almost. So Tosfot says, no, maybe you could think differently. Maybe you could say that the husband specifically, the man that was suspected on this woman is specifically interested to keep the husband alive. Now, if he keeps the husband alive, he won't be able to marry this woman, obviously. But he'll gonna find ways to get to her, even if it means with much less opportunities and convenience. But at least he's going to be able to feel the taste of the prohibited. And nobody's French over here besides for the Ouzans. In France, I'm sure you don't even know that, you shouldn't even know it, there's a perfume called l'interdit, the prohibited. That's the name of the perfume. Now we understand why. Ma'im gnuvim yimtaku. So Tosfot says, why don't we actually suspect this man of possibly committing a relations with that woman and trying to save the husband in order to feel the taste of the prohibited, so he could go back to this woman while she's still prohibited, since we hold of Ma'im gnuvim. And Tosfot answers, this is a secret that people in the world, around in the world, do not know of. Because they don't know of the Ma'im gnuvim imtaku. So that's why the Torah Kedosha, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yishtabach Shemo, created this concept of Taharat HaMishpacha, where there's a time that we feel that your own wife is prohibited to you. And you're going to feel a certain craving for her, which you could only satisfy after she goes to the mikveh. But then you're going to be able to feel that taste of the prohibited, as opposed to someone who is always free life with free access to his wife. And the only place where he could find prohibited in that realm is in the world outside. So, secretary, women walking on the streets, walking at work, women at shopping centers. And I don't need to elaborate on that, how much it could provocate us and be challenging us the way they appear these days. So the Torah says it's not fair. We don't want a Jewish man, to be facing the the attraction of a prohibited woman only outside his house. He has to feel that in his own midst, in his own marriage, so that can make it even, and hopefully he'll focus more on his wife than what somebody else could turn him down by being attractive to him. Okay? So that's the concept now of pleasure that you have to make in the effort to be able to achieve, which is what Rav Dessler explains makes the intensity of pleasure so much greater when you feel the prohibited and you feel you have to wait and make the effort to be able to have access to your wife. That makes it so much more special, so much more unique and enjoyable. Baruch Hashem, everybody's so quiet. I wish in my classes it was like that. Tiferes Bes Yaakov. Rabbi Kadosh, you could pass it down to whoever needs to hear that. Imagine my students like grade 10, grade 12 would be like that. Psh, what a pleasure.
Because you deal with girls, right?
Girls. Boys have all their own issues. Boys are more physical, girls are more talkative. So each one has their own thing. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to a new concept, a new part of the discussion before we get to the halacha part of the shiur. I'm afraid to look at the clock. So we spoke about this powerful mitzvah of shmirat einayim. A man has this great mitzvah, velo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. We all agree that it's a very difficult mitzvah, especially in the generation that we live in. There's a Orach Chaim HaKadosh that says that before Mashiach comes, the world will reach the 50th level of Tum'ah. A level that in Mitzrayim we were not able to reach because otherwise it would have been gone for Klal Israel. But before Yemot HaMashiach, we would be able to reach that. And why is that so? Because Yafutzu Ma'ino Tachachutza. On the other hand, the Kedusha, the Koach HaKedusha will be so much available. Imagine how many classes of Torah you have available online, or how many Shorim are available, how many Sfarim today we have that even Rishonim, Rashi, Tosafot didn't have themselves. And we have them redone, reprinted, corrected with all kind of commentaries, and everything becomes the Zohar, everything, the Chok Yisrael, everything is presented to us in such an easy way. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the Kedusha and the Tum'ah to be on the same level. It should be a fair battle between the Kedusha and the Tum'ah. At the end of the day, we know that the level of Tum'ah that's around us is terribly challenging for men. And the Torah says, Velo taturu, you have to try your best. We even spoke about the famous story with Baba Sali, where the person was saved from a terrorist attack because he kept his eyes away from looking at women who were not properly dressed. And Baba Sali explained to him that every time he turned away from that sight, he created a malach, and that's the one that came to save him. Try to refer to that class we have on recording. But as far as, and that's perhaps my concern tonight, of course it's a great mitzvah, but I'm not here to give a Musar class. I'm here to discuss the aspect of Shalom Bayit. How does that relate to the mitzvah of Shalom Bayit? Could someone explain? What's the connection? So you don't have to go that far. It's simple. A man who watches what he's looking at. In other words, a man who has only eyes for his wife will obviously be able to appreciate and enjoy his wife's appearance so much more than somebody who doesn't keep his eyes from looking out. Why? Very simple. Other women, ma'im genuvim, it's much more attractive to a person. Your wife, your wife already, it's like mundane. It's already becoming, years and years of marriage. What's the big deal? Torah says, Velo taturu, be careful, watch your eyes. And eventually, that brings a lot of bracha to a person. Very difficult mitzvah, but the sachar, the reward, is great. And the harder the mitzvah is to fulfill, the greater the sachar is. The fum tzara agra, as we all know. We know that for a man to admire another woman than his wife is terrible sin. It's called Girui Arayot. It goes into the Avera of Girui Arayot. Terrible thing. On the other hand, when a person lives a well-balanced life, married life with his wife, including all aspects of marriage. That brings kedusha. What is kedusha? When you're there to provide for the other. And that's another aspect of marriage, where the Torah wants us to think not just about ourselves, but about our spouses. When we fulfill the mitzvah of having intimacy with our wives, that we should focus on providing her with what she wants, what she needs to make her happy. That's the mitzvah of ona. It's very important that a person comes to realize that. So marriage, some people may tell you, there's also halachot about how to run intimacy. You have to know that there are specific rabbanim, who are qualified enough to answer these kind of questions. But you should not ever read and get your knowledge from a book, even a book of Torah, that talks about restriction on intimacy. There's a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of people who had a sexual life active before they did tshuva, they think once you do tshuva, you get married, akol asur. That's it. You're there just to do what you have to do, but you're not. It's a big mistake. A lot of people are turned down from that, and they reject everything. No taharat hamishpacha. I don't want to hear about anything to do. So you have to know that in the realm of intimacy, you have to get proper guidance if need be, because, like I said, the main thing is a person, and that's what we discussed last time. A woman is supposed to serve the purpose of choma, a wall, protection for the husband. So anything that you are getting and giving your wife is under the category of kedusha. You're bringing more holiness, more sanctity to your midst, and more protection from the world outside. That you shouldn't be turned down by any other temptation. That's the purpose. So that's why intimacy is a very important part of marriage, and it has to be done properly with each other in mind, making sure that you provide the satisfaction that a person needs and deserves, and not just think about yourself. Think of giving what the other person deserves. Now, there is another important aspect in this concept of Shalom Bayit. So before I go into that, let me read to you a line that I prepared. And I'm wondering how many of you have ever used those words when trying to compliment your wife. Now, if I were to be among other type of people, they would think, come on, Rabbi, this is fiction. It doesn't exist. Now, we believe that it is possible to happen. Listen to that. I didn't read this anywhere. I put it into words myself. Imagine a husband coming to his wife and expressing sincere feelings about her. For example, he's telling her, I get from you everything a man could possibly ever wish to get out of a woman. Your appearance, the romance I experience with you, the company, the way you care for our children, the attention you give me, the way you run the house. You have so much for me that I don't believe that any other woman on earth could possibly ever entice me and seduct me, because you're so much, you mean so much, you mean the world to me. You could almost make a movie out of this. Very romantic, isn't it? I think it is. But that could be true. That could be you. That could happen to each one of us. To come to the level that you truly believe in everything I just said now, and there's much more you could add, I'm sure, each one his own case. Someone who could really, you can come to your wife one day and say, only I could truly appreciate your values. But only I know how to admire your true inner talents and quality and skills. If that's the case, you could say it. And it truly could be true. Imagine, this is the goal of Shalom Bayit, that you come to your wife and say to her that there is no one on earth. Af echad lo yishve ba. So I have a question to ask you. You don't have to answer me, But I suppose that each one of you had at least once the chance to go to your wife, and say to her, "You're the most beautiful woman on earth." How many are we here? 12, 13. How could all of our wives be the most beautiful women on the world? Could you explain to me? Is that a lie? Are you trying to lie to your wife? Huh? Who could answer me that question? I had this question myself. I don't know. Maybe you didn't.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
What is it?
Beauty is in the eye
Of the beholder.
There's more to beauty than
So that means, I'm sorry to ask you this question, but did it ever happen that you walked by another woman than your wife and you felt, oh wow, she has something? Never happened. Never. I don't think it could never happen. I don't think so.
You're still not your wife.
The answer is obvious, like I just said. Your wife is not just her physical appearance, it's everything that she represents for you. Her advice, her guidance, her company when you talk to her, she's so special. She means so much to you in everything. And the longer you're married, if you run a healthy marriage, the greater you're going to mean what I just said now. Because in every aspect, she's so special to you. Sure, physically speaking, you could have a better looking girl out there. But that's not my point. She's just a body. This is my life. This is my world that I built with her for so many years in so many different aspects, in so many different ways. This is how you could truly feel so attached and carried away by your wife in every way. But don't forget that if this is your case, don't ever keep this inside. You got to put it into words. You got to maybe give her a gift. Be able to relate that to her. Because if you don't give encouragement to your wife for what she is to you, then she's not going to try to please you even more and better. So you got to be able to appreciate and to express your feelings. Like we said last time, men are very, very weak in that field. We're not naturally emotional like women are. It's a whole skill to develop, to learn how to express your feelings. But I would say if you were to say, "Matai yagiu ma'asai le'maasei avotai, Avraham ve'Yitzchak," should be like a goal, a mission that you want to fulfill one day, to be able to come to that level, that you truly mean what you have just said with your wife. And it's truly what it is all about. If you're able to feel that appreciation, it's all about it. You got your marriage the most successful. True, you have the most beautiful wife because her appearance, along with all other qualities that she has, and what she has done for you in life, is a world that has no value. There's no one who could compete with her. That's what the Torah wants of us, to enhance our marriages and enjoy our marriages with the pleasure that it comes with, including that, but making sure that we're thinking of giving that to the wife as well. That introduces us to the next topic, the topic of Ona. Ona is a mitzvah min Torah that a man has to give time for his wife. Time means intimacy, just as read in the Torah with more appropriate term. And this mitzvah is not something to disregard, because Chazal tell us that this is a mitzvah min Torah, a mitzvah on the Torah level. And I'll read to you what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Hamoneya me'ishto ona. A person who keeps away the intimacy from his wife, kedil tzara. He didn't cook the cholent well last time. You're going to see. 2 weeks, no relations. Psh. There are people that do that. Shulchan Aruch says, over belo ta'aseh. It's like a negative commandment in the Torah. Do not eat non-kosher food. It's not any less than that. You could have the other way around too. You could have a woman who's so mean that she's not going to go to the mikveh when the time comes to make her husband, be hanging for her and crazy over her, and she's not going to go to the mikveh because he got her upset. You know what the Zohar says about that? Mevi ra'ot la'olam. Bet Yosef brings down in Ilchot Nida. A woman that does that, who refrains from going to the mikveh just to bother the husband, don't ever give this idea to your wife. It says in the Zohar, Mevi ra'ot la'olam. It's a terrible thing. We know that a mikveh night, Chazal tell us, there's a mitzvah min Torah to give your wife what she deserves on the night of the mikveh, because naturally she's craving for that after this long period stretch of nida. It makes sense. And you have to realize that the mikveh never gets postponed. It's a rule that you all have to internalize and apply to yourself. A lot of times the mikveh night comes on a Friday night, and you already made arrangement for some guests to come over, for you to go to your parents, and it's very inconvenient to go to the mikveh. You should know we never postpone a mikveh night. Find ways to make arrangements to allow you to go for the wife to go to the mikveh, and if that means that it's the night of Rosh Hashanah, and the husband cannot go to shul on the first night of Rosh Hashanah because he has to attend for the kids so the wife can go to the mikveh, he should not go to shul. Excuse me, Rabbi Chadosh, please forgive me. He should not sign for his seat in shul the night of Rosh Hashanah. He should rather stay home and be there to be poked ishto and give her the mitzvah of ona. That mitzvah of ona applies even at the time when a woman cannot procreate. We know that there's two mitzvot when a person gets married. There's mitzvah of ona, to give pleasure to your wife, and the mitzvah of pirya v'rivya, to have children. So that, let's say a woman is in the midst of, she's in the middle of pregnancy. She can't become pregnant again. Or she's in a nursing period. She's not ovulating. She cannot become pregnant again. Doesn't affect the mitzvah of ona. You still have a mitzvah to be with her and provide her with that need. Or it could be a woman post-menopause. Also, she cannot procreate. Or God forbid, akara, a woman who cannot have children altogether. The mitzvah of ona is just the same, just as much. I think the Ben Ish Chai says that whenever a person has relations with his wife, even if there's no procreation of a baby, there is borei neshamot kedoshot. There's some creation of holy neshamot, which I don't personally understand much about it, but there's a concept of ruchanit, pirya v'rivya ruchanit. Now, why am I sharing that with you? It gives us a little bit of appreciation of what, every time we do a mitzvah with our wives, what it does. The positive impact it has not only on her, but on olamot ha'ilyonim. It's a time of kedusha. You know that if you ever have a sukkah, you know that in the sukkah you have to have great respect. Sukkah has a lot of kedusha. The ushpizin come in. There's the shechina, tzila de meimnuta. We all know that. If you wish to wash dishes into the sukkah, not allowed to. Could you bring a pot? Could your wife bring the course inside a pot and put it on the table? Mishnah Berurah says no. If you wouldn't do that in your dining room, don't do that. Bring a serving plate. Question: is a man who has a private sukkah? Well, some people have private rooms in their sukkah. Could a man have a relation with his wife in the sukkah or not? Mitzvah. Not only he could, it's a mitzvah. What do you mean? You can't wash dishes, you can have a relation with your own wife. Of course, if it's done properly, appropriately, at the right time, in the right way, you bring kedusha into your midst, into your home. It's a mitzvah deoraita that you could fulfill. So it's a very important thing to realize. Also, if a person is yotzei laderech, is about to leave town, there's a mitzvah to be poked ishto, to be with her the night before, or when he comes back from a trip. Now, I think I mentioned last time, or maybe not, that there's a special siman in Shulchan Aruch about mitzvat ona b'Shabbat, which means that the person should try to have a relation with his wife on Shabbat. Under what umbrella? Onek Shabbat, believe it or not. Onek Shabbat. Onek Shabbat to have a good hamid, it's not enough. If you're married, Onek Shabbat. Not just for you. If it's just for you, she also has a mitzvah Onek Shabbat. That shows that Onek Shabbat is for both of them to enjoy. Like we said, if that's the mindset is to enjoy intimacy in order to build up the relationship and create a stronger bond, it's all mitzvah, it's all kedusha. You can have it in a sukkah, you should have it on Shabbat. And how many times a week does a person have to be with his wife to give what she deserves to get? We all know the pasuk that Lavan, when he goes to Yaakov, he says, Im te'aneh, with a dagesh. Right, Rabbi David? Dagesh. Te'aneh et benotai. He went to Yaakov and says, I hope you're not going to refrain from providing for my daughters, who are going to be your wives. He was so concerned that maybe he was going to cut away from. So what's inui? We find in Chazal that the person has to give, if he's a Talmid Chacham, once a week, has to be with his wife. But the Chachamim, and this found in the Shulchan Aruch, you can look it up, in the Pitrei Tshuva, that in the generation they will live in, and that was written probably 100 years ago, 200 years ago, because there's so much peritzut in the world, so much immorality, once a week is not enough. You got to provide your wife with twice a week. Now this doesn't have to be a rigid, like, okay, calendar, here. It has to come with a little bit of flexibility, obviously. There's also a concept that the wife could be mohel to the husband if he's not feeling like it or whatever. Now, by the way, this whole concept of providing for one's wife with needs of intimacy shows how much this is all a ways for us, a means to grow and build up the relationship. Because many times a person can find like he's not in the mood for it. So if you do it for your own pleasure, thank you, I don't want it. But you have to remind yourself, maybe that is a mitzvah for her to get. So sometimes you have to condition your mind or your mindset to put yourself in the right mood. And this actually applies to women as well, certainly more than it applies to men, because it's harder for them to get in that mindset. So at the end of the day, there's a mitzvah that a man has to provide for his wife. We say it twice a week, that's the mitzvah. One of the 2 times should be on Shabbat if possible. Okay. Now, if a person's wife is mishadaltot, she's trying to get him to understand that she feels close to him, she feels attracted by him, but she's not saying anything. So there's a mitzvah midrabanan for the husband to provide for his wife if he feels that she's in the mood for it and she's trying to do things like we find with Leah. Vatetze Leah dikrat to Yaakov. And who did she had after that? She had Yisachar with Lomed Torah. So it says that the person that does that is going to have Banim, Hachamim, Unvonim. Very special children. A halacha which is in the same subject. A person should not have Sfarim in the room when he's having a relation with his wife because of the Kedusha, the respect you have to show a Torah. Same thing with Tefillin, Mezuzot. Unless it's covered with two wraps, right? So, and one of the 2 covers has to be not see-through. Has to be that you can't see through. For example, imagine you have a mezuzah at your bedroom doorpost. And the mezuzah, and the door is open, let's say you have no children at home, so you leave the door open. But the mezuzah has how many covers? Anybody knows how many covers on the mezuzah usually?
Let's get the plastic one.
Good. Today the Sofrim, they put a wrap around, plastic, cellophane, whatever, and then you have the case. But if the case is see-through, and the plastic is also see-through, and you have Shem Shakai, Shin Dalet Yud, then you can't have Meshamesh Mitato, you can have a relation if you could see that. So there's 2 ways you could take care of this issue. Either you use a cover that doesn't have...
Close the door, it's on the outside.
Yes, if it's on the outside, not all the time. Sometimes the mezuzah is on the inside, depending on how your doorpost is built. So again, you're right. If the mezuzah is on the outside and you can't see one from inside the bedroom, then it's fine. Or there's an easier way to get away with that issue. You just buy a case, mezuzah case that's not see-through, and that's fine. Now, if you have 2 covers, but they're both part of this item of, let's say, tefillin. People have their regular velvet bag, whatever, and then they have a plastic around it. Could you leave it on the dresser? It's wrapped. You have the box also. It's 3 covers. The answer is not enough. Why? Because it's meyuchad. It's kisui meyuchad. It has to be, one of the covers has to be different. So it happens that let's say you're on traveling and you keep your tefillin with you like you should do, never to check them in, and you have a hand luggage and you need to go to the washroom. You're going to leave it outside. If you do, you're not going to find it again. That's for sure. So you can bring it to the washroom. Tefillin to the washroom. How could you do that? The answer is no problem at all. You can do it. As long as the talit bag is inside the hand luggage, so you got 2 covers right there, and one of them is not meyuchad, is a separate cover, that's fine. You could do that. I'm not talking about the halacha of Sefer Torah, that's different, you have to have a mechitza, but most people don't have Sefer Torah at home. Certainly not in the bedroom. I just want to get back to this concept of Shmirat Einayim. I read this morning a beautiful insight about the power of tzitzit. The power of the mitzvah of tzitzit. The Gemara says there was a person, Gemara in Menachot, Daf Mem Dalet, the story how a person was saved from committing adultery because of his tzitzit. So Gemara says there was a Zona who was so famous and so attractive and so special that she would charge 400 golden coins for a man to be able to be with her. And the Gemara says the whole story how she made like 7 beds. She was all the way on top, and this student of yeshiva he just gave it. So he sent the money to her, and he was about to go commit the sin. And as he started getting undressed, and all of a sudden the talit, the tzitzit, tapchalu al panav. I'm not sure how to translate that. He got smacked. What? Slapped him? Yeah. He got slapped by the 4 tzitzit. On the spot, he found the courage to run away, and this was the end of the thing. We see the power of the tzitzit, and it's not by coincidence. We know that Vayomer Hashem el Moshe lemor. We read every day the parasha of tzitzit, and after that it says Velo taturu achei levavchem achei einechem. So the Chachamim, they see that in the mitzvah of tzitzit there is a specific segula to keep a person away from the temptation of znut of another woman. And a beautiful insight I saw in the same idea. You know, there's a minhag that when young man gets engaged, who buys him a talit? The kala. Why? Because the kala is trying to tell the husband, I'm your choma, now I'm becoming your wife. You're going to be protected from other women. So I'm sending you a talit because tzitzit has this gula to protect you from this kind of temptation. Another thing also, and that's for Sfaradim. Sfaradim, they have a minhag, they will put the talit over the head of the chatan kala. Also with the same idea, to show that the relevance of tzitzit in regards to the protection a person's wife could give him, and keep him secure from the temptation of the world. So once again, we fall into the same pattern that we had last time. We didn't even touch about the halachot yet. So I have an issue over here. I'm not sure what to say, what to do.
Part 3.
David, part 3. I don't know. I'm afraid they're going to charge me for that. It's the second time already. Huh? I'll end with a story, just a story. I'll just end with a small story to show how important it is for a man to study the halachot of nida and review them. It's like a profession where you take an update, you go back to school to update yourself, your knowledge, because technology it changes all the time. Same thing with nida. You have to constantly review the halachot. This is why we're having a class tonight. And, when need be, bring a she'ela to a rav, not to keep it to yourself. And so there was a story with a black cat. Anybody afraid to hear the story? This is a story of a
Black hat or cat?
Cat. Black hats are so many already. And only black cat is like. Okay, so this is a lady who. This is about a chayal, a soldier in Eretz Israel, who was in the time of the Lebanon war. He was in Lebanon, and he goes to his mefaked, and he says, "Tomorrow I'm going home." No, you're not. I'm going home tomorrow. I need to be home tomorrow night. The kids go back and forth until he gave him permission to go. He's going to go, stop cars on the way. How do you say hi? Hitchhike, okay. And he made it back from there to wherever he lived. And this was the night that his wife was supposed to go to the mikveh. So now the lady, the balanit, we call her, the balanit is the mikveh lady, mikveh attendant. So she leaves the mikveh, she's about to lock the mikveh and go. And she has her car waiting there. And here we go, there's a black cat sitting under the car, not budging, not moving. She goes inside the car, turns on the engine, beeps, nothing. Couldn't care any less. All of a sudden, this young couple, a soldier in Madim Shel Tzava, with a uniform, soldier of Tzahal, walking in with his wife, wasn't dressed very, very tzniut way. Excuse us, lady, do you know if there's a mikveh? We're told in this room, on this street, there's a mikveh somewhere? A mikveh? Why are you coming so late? It's 11 p.m. It's closed already. No, you have to understand, I came from Lebanon, this. So now she understood why this cat was so stubborn. Wow. Because of the mitzvah of this chayal. Now, how is it possible, tell me, if you're at service in the army, How are you going to keep track of when your wife has to go to the mikveh? If you don't know the halachot, all you care about is, okay, you tell me post mikveh. Whenever you're ready, you tell me. I don't want to hear anything about the process. It will never happen. Also, a lot of times you need to give assistance or emotional support to a woman, to your wife. There's sometimes issues in the process of getting to the mikveh, and instead of blaming her, you should give her support. But that's only possible if you learn halachot. And how about when you have a she'elah about nida, and the wife doesn't feel like asking your rabbi? Now, I don't know why is that like that, because the same women go to the doctor and expose themselves for medical reasons even more than when you bring a she'elah to the rabbi, a little piece of cloth. What's the big deal? But this is called false modesty. There are people who can understand a kind of resentment to some degree. But if the husband has to be available, if there's any she'elah to bring to the rabbi, the husband says, I'll take it, don't worry, no problem. So it's important that the husband learns the halachot. And there are times when the husband has to be home. For example, the day of the mikveh, it's very stressful for a woman. All the preparation, and if she has the kids around, it's even more difficult. The husband has to be there to make sure his wife does what she has to do in a relaxed manner. Because what happens if a woman goes to the mikveh and she's stressed? She's under tension. If only she holds her lips tight too much, or her eyes closed tight, the mikveh is not valid. Now this is not a chumrah, this is halakhan shulchan aruch. Why? Because if you hold your lips tightly closed, tightly shut, some of the parts which are supposed to be in contact with the water of the mikveh is not getting it. So the mikveh is not nothing. So that's not halachot. The most important thing is the wife be relaxed when she goes to the mikveh. And the husband has a good part in that. Sometimes he has to provide for her to make sure she has enough time and the condition, the circumstances to feel relaxed when she prepares herself for the mikveh. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, we should continue. I'm not sure when the next class would be, but Be'ezrat Hashem, we should continue to stay connected, stay tuned, and the zchut of the tzaddikim should stand for us. Be'ezrat Hashem should be zochet to bracha and atzlacha, to have children are going to give us only nachat. And the zchut of tarat ha-mishpacha, and the zchut of the mitzvot, and our connection to Torah mitzvot. Thank you very much.